From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. I'm Ben Hall. A good show tonight. We're taking on definitely a difficult topic, one that evokes a lot of passion in many people, and we want to talk about both sides. We are happy to have with us people who can do that. Tonight we are talking about abortion, some of the laws that are already in place in Tennessee and some of those that are being proposed in regards to abortion. Happy to have with us Representative Susan Lynn, Republican from Mount Juliet. Thank you for being with us. And Representative Sherry Jones, Democrat from Nashville. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
And so one of the biggest of these bills was the ultrasound bill. This just yesterday was taken off the table. So that's not going to happen. But let's talk about why it was put in, why was it out there, the ultrasound bill, what would it have done, and why was it taken off the table? And I'll start with you on that.
What the bill would have done is required women who are seeking an abortion to have an ultrasound before having that abortion. And honestly, I think that the way a lot of the pro-life advocates felt about it was really counterintuitive. A lot of them didn't actually care for the bill because early on in a pregnancy, you cannot really see much. The conception has taken place, the life is growing, but to do an ultrasound, you might not see much. And so the people at the crisis pregnancy centers, they were worried because they thought it might reinforce that stereotype that, oh, it's just a blob of tissue, there's nothing there, when there really is life there. So they were sort of concerned about the legislation, and I think the sponsor listened to that and ultimately decided not to run the bill.
And the concern on the part of others is this was just, it was another roadblock, just essentially trying to, I guess, dissuade people from doing this. And was that, I guess, Representative Jones,
it
your
was
concern?
like, to me, it was like punishing the woman who decided that she had to get an abortion, because you forced them to go in and you forced them to look at a picture of a fetus that is still developing, but just trying to make them feel guilty about what they were doing. And there's no woman that enters into that decision lightly. Nobody does that. I know many people who have had abortions, and it's been a really serious, thoughtful process with them, and generally there's a really good reason. You know, somebody doesn't have the money for another child, or they are being abused in some way, and we don't need to punish women just because they've made a decision to have an abortion.
So you're happy it's off the table?
I'm
now.
very happy it's off the table.
And what do you think about that?
I think the sponsor had the absolute best of intents. Anybody who's ever had a child and you see the sonogram and you see the life growing inside of the woman, it's overwhelming, and it just makes you realize what a miracle life is.
And where are we now with abortion laws in Tennessee? What are some of the things that have been passed recently? And Representative Jones, what are your thoughts on, I guess, where we are as far as the availability of an abortion in Tennessee?
I think that every session we are moving backwards on women's rights. And for some reason, people think that women don't think these things through. They have no idea what they're doing, but they do. Women are smart, and they know exactly what their lives are. But every year we're moving back a little bit more, and you'll see a little cut out of something here and a little cut out of something there. And I think what we're trying to do is get back to where abortions are just illegal.
What do you think about that?
Well, obviously Sherry and I have a different opinion.
We do not agree on this.
We absolutely don't agree. The recent abortion laws have put in place protections for women. They've given them informed consent, a 48-hour waiting period, so that someone doesn't just rush into an abortion. She finds out she's pregnant, she's scared. You know what? She might go home and everybody might wrap their arms around her and say, we are excited, we're going to help you with this baby. This is very exciting. Licensure and inspection of abortion clinics. Do you know these abortion clinics are not licensed and they are not inspected. So that has passed. That, and actually, I sponsored that bill last year. Hospital admitting privileges, that the abortionists have hospital admitting privileges. Parental consent for a child 17 or under, that was actually in place all of these years since the 2000 decision. And then also, coercion is criminal. You cannot coerce someone into having an abortion. And another bill that I passed was that there be a sign in an abortion clinic to let people know it is illegal to coerce anyone, or if someone is coercing you into having an abortion, they are committing a crime. And these are protections for women. They really are. And that's, you know, that's just the difference in the way we see it.
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, don't see it that way at all. Not even a little bit. You know, if you're making them do abortions in an ambulatory surgical center, there's no need for that. First of all, abortion is the safest surgery that you can have, and that's proven, and there are a lot of data out there on that. Secondly, if you go to your doctor for any sort of surgical procedure, he does not have to have those regulations in his office. One of the doctors of the day told me, I don't have to have those sort of restrictions in my office for the surgery I do. She said an abortion is so simple. It's the easiest surgery ever. So a lot of these things I look at as just roadblocks, because you don't have to have a mandatory 48-hour waiting period. You can't get an abortion on the day you discover that you're pregnant anyway, and you have to make the appointment. You have to go through all of the procedures that you have to go through. And if you're somebody from a rural area who's coming in to have an abortion, 48 hours is really terrible, because you may have another child, you may have a job that you can't get off of, so it just costs more money for a woman to come from another area to get an abortion.
The notion of the regulation and having to get I can't remember. It's the regulation to get a permit or something.
A license.
A license.
Inspection. Yes. Yes.
Has that had an impact on the number of people who are actually doing this? And I'll ask you. And I mean, are you aware of that? Of someone saying, "Well, I can't go through that, and so now I'm just going to stop doing this." Are you aware? Has that happened?
Oh,
yeah. What about
sure.
that?
Well, a judge has put a hold on that law. There is a lawsuit ongoing right now. Two abortion providers, one in Bristol and one in Nashville, joined together into a lawsuit because they couldn't meet the licensure requirement or pass the inspection. So they filed a lawsuit, and a judge has put a hold on that. Their lawsuit also is challenging the informed consent provision and the 48-hour waiting period provision. So right now those things are on hold. And there's actually another lawsuit too. A group is challenging Planned Parenthood and a Vandy law professor, Tracy George. They're challenging the passage of Amendment 1. They're claiming that the Secretary of State's office did not count the votes properly. Conversely, the Secretary of State feels that he counted the votes correctly, so he's filed his own lawsuit to ask for a judgment as to whether or not they did count the votes correctly, because he feels that they've counted them the way they've counted them for every other constitutional amendment. So,
we can talk about Amendment 1 in a moment, and yeah, that is another major sort of development in all of this. But what do you think about this? So these have been put on hold because they're being challenged in a lawsuit.
For their constitutionality.
When there is this requirement for licensure, does it mean that fewer doctors offer this? Does it keep people out of from doing it, or what do you think about that?
It certainly can, and it has. And you know, to think that regulating abortion so strictly that it's going to stop. It's not going to happen. Women are going to get abortions, and all we're doing is setting them up to go to somebody who is not qualified and who might do something that's really devastating to them, or even they die. And that's not what we want to do. We want abortion to be safe and legal, because you don't know what somebody else's life is, and you don't know why they're making that choice. And I just don't think it's our business to get into their personal health issues. And that's what it is their personal health issues. I think it ought to be covered under HIPAA.
And that has been an argument, that even if it were outlawed in Tennessee, take away all these other things, just outlaw it, then perhaps they could go across the line to a neighboring state. Or if it's outlawed in the United States, then perhaps it would force people to go to another country. And certainly wealthy people could, others couldn't. That's that argument. When you hear that people are going to get abortions if they're desperate to get them, that we put people's health at risk by limiting them, what do you say?
Last year, there were 12,373 abortions performed in Tennessee. 20% of those were performed on women from out of state. They actually came to Tennessee to have an abortion. And it's because Tennessee actually has had the most liberal abortion laws in the United States. Because in the year 2000, the Tennessee Supreme Court struck many common sense protections for women regarding abortion. With the passage of Amendment 1, we were able to put back in place some of those protections. So I just don't see it that way. Tennessee has really been a magnet state for women to come to have an abortion, unfortunately.
See, I don't particularly want the General Assembly trying to protect me from the decisions that I make. I want to be able to make my own personal, private health care decisions. And I don't want the General Assembly to tell me. I don't want somebody telling me that I have to wait 48 hours before I have a procedure that I've decided to have. I don't need that help. I'm smart enough to do that on my own, and I want to do that on my own. And I think most women would agree that they're smart enough to make their own decisions on those issues.
So we've kind of set the table here. We're going to take a break. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.